France's top diplomat walks into a big meeting in Berlin and drops this bomb. Hey, what if Canada just joins Europe someday? He was kind of smiling when he said it. People laughed, some even clapped. But here's the thing nobody's really talking about. Canada has quietly been setting everything up for exactly that. And they've been doing it for a whole year now. I'm Elle of Houseville on YouTube. I have a PhD in computer science, and I look at data to find hidden patterns in world politics and money. Let me break down what's really going on here because trust me, this is not just a funny joke. This is how the world's power map gets redrawn. And it's happening right now, right in front of us. So Mark Carney became Canada's Prime Minister back in March 2025. And what did he do almost immediately? He jumped on a plane to Paris to go shake hands with France's President Macron. That was just his first trip. By March 2026, the guy had taken 26 trips to other countries, and almost all of them were to Europe. That's not just being polite. Carney has clearly been on some kind of mission. At a big Canada-Europe meeting in Brussels last June, he straight up said, and I'm quoting him here, Canada is the most European country that isn't actually in Europe, and we look to the European Union first when we want to build a better world. That's not just nice words at a fancy dinner. That's him basically announcing which team Canada is playing for now. And why is this happening? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. Trump hit Canada hard with tariffs back in 2025. Canadian steel, aluminum, cars all got slapped with extra costs. We've talked about this before on the channel. The U.S. normally buys about 75% of everything Canada sells to other countries. But suddenly, America started acting like an unpredictable partner. So Carney looked at the situation and said, okay, we're turning toward Europe. In June 2025, Canada signed a security and defense deal with the EU. It wasn't legally binding or anything, but it basically put all of Canada's military cooperation with European countries under one shared umbrella. Then in December, something even bigger happened. Canada became the very first non-European country to join this EU program called SAFE, a massive €150 billion military shopping program that lets Canadian weapons companies sell directly into European military markets. Just stop and think about what that actually means. Canada now gets special access to European defense contracts that other countries simply don't have. Canadian companies can bid on European military projects. European defense money starts flowing into Canada. This isn't just a trade handshake anymore. This is like Canada and Europe sharing the same supply closet for weapons and military gear. That's a whole different level of connection. On top of that, Carney created a brand new job, a personal representative to the European Union, like a dedicated person whose only job is to make the Canada-Europe relationship stronger across trade, investment, and security. That position never existed before. But now it does because Canada is treating Europe like it's just as important as NATO itself. And here's where things get really interesting. If you know how big economic blocs actually work, Canada and the EU already have this trade deal called CETA, which has been running since 2017. That deal alone pushed Canada-Europe trade up by 65% in just 7 years. But CETA is just a trade deal. What Carney is building now goes way deeper than that. This new EU-Canada strategic partnership launched in June 2025. It's not just about reducing taxes on products crossing borders. It's about making rules match up, sharing digital standards, agreeing on climate stuff, and protecting each other's economies from outside threats. When the EU talks about economic security, they mean working together on critical minerals, energy, computer chips, basically all the stuff countries need to stay powerful and independent. And the puzzle pieces fit together really nicely here. Canada has stuff Europe desperately wants: natural resources, rare earth minerals, stable energy, and a huge landmass with not that many people living on it. Europe has stuff Canada needs right now: a giant market to sell things to, advanced factories and technology, and a powerful political group that isn't trying to take over Canadian land or randomly tax Canadian goods. When you map out the IMF trade data against Carney's travel schedule, the pattern is pretty obvious. Every major European country he visited in 2025, France, Germany, Spain, the UK, and others, ended up signing some kind of follow-up deal with Canada on defense, minerals, or trade expansion. So this isn't just feel-good diplomacy for photo ops. Real structures are being built here, and this whole idea of Canada actually joining the EU isn't new either. In a recent CBS interview, a former World Bank economist named Augusto Lopez Claros pointed out that Canada could technically join the EU if the membership rules in the founding treaty got changed. Right now, the treaty says only European countries can apply, but all member countries could vote to change that rule if they all agreed. Lopez Claros said Canada already acts like a values-based institutional member, which is exactly the kind of club the EU sees itself as, and he's not the only one saying this. A politician from Alberta named Thomas Lukaszuk has also publicly said he'd be down for it. Now, Carney himself said last June that he wants closer ties but not full membership, but that was 9 months ago. And everything he's actually done since then points in a pretty different direction. Okay, so here's the massive question everyone should be asking. What does this mean for American power? If Canada gets deeply tied to Europe, whether through full membership or something that works basically the same way, the U.S. loses its most important northern neighbor. Canada holds the world's third largest oil reserves. It has enormous freshwater supplies. It's a G7 economy, and it shares a direct land border with the American Midwest. That border has always been the friendliest, most economically connected border the U.S. has ever had with any country. Trump's tariffs were supposed to pressure Canada into falling in line. Instead, they pushed Canada straight into Europe's arms. And Europe is welcoming Canada with open infrastructure and open checkbooks. From a money perspective, this shift matters too. Right now, most of Canada's trade happens in US dollars because of how close Canada and America are. But deeper ties with Europe means more deals done in euros, more European investment coming in, and Canada slowly shifting how it manages its financial reserves. We already see how the US dollar is facing pressure, like at the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran only allows ships to pass safely if they're trading in Chinese yuan. If Canada starts moving more of its financial weight toward the euro, that's one more chip knocked off the dollar's dominance as the world's go-to currency. Meanwhile, Europe gets a resource-rich, politically stable new partner with Arctic territory, energy security, and protection against both American economic pressure and Chinese influence. That's a kind of strategic advantage Europe just doesn't have right now. So where does this all go from here? Here's what I think is coming. That French foreign minister didn't casually float this idea at a major international conference for no reason. France doesn't do accidental trial balloons at big events like that. There's clearly some internal conversation already happening behind closed doors. The range of what's considered politically possible is quietly expanding in real time. Canada probably won't be filling out an EU membership application tomorrow. But here's what I'd keep watching for. First, more defense and weapons procurement integration through the SAFE program. Second, an expansion of the CETA trade deal to cover digital services, critical minerals, and clean energy technology. And third, some kind of informal observer or associate member setup that gives Canada a seat at the European table without triggering the full messy debate about official membership. Honestly, I think the U.S. is too caught up right now with Iran, tariffs, and its own internal drama to even notice this shift happening. And by the time Washington figures out what's going on, the structures will already be too locked in to easily undo. This might genuinely be the biggest geopolitical breakup of the century, and it's all going down quietly inside trade regulation meetings and defense procurement agreements that most people aren't even paying attention to. Go watch the video on your screen about how the petrodollar is losing its grip, starting with Iran only accepting yuan for safe passage at the Strait of Hormuz. The pieces are moving faster than most people realize. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe and I'll see you all soon.